Cenobites, summonings, blood on the streets, biting bullets. Sounds harmful. Demonization. Is that a word? What did spell check say? Yep. Soulfly are back with album number 11, Ritual. Right, before I go any further, like, subscribe. I'm really happy that I get to review this album. I started this channel about 11 months ago now, and one of the first videos, in fact I think it was the second video that I put out, was a review of the Cavalera conspiracy album Psychosis, which I enjoyed very much. So I like the idea that almost a year later I get to review another Max Cavalera album. He's one of those artists that continually turns up in my reviews as well. The sheer amount of people that Sepultura and a lot of the various projects that Max has found himself in, he's just one of those influential characters. In terms of Soulfly, I haven't actually really listened to much of their stuff since, I want to say, Dark Ages. Can't remember if that was their 4th or 5th album, but I kind of lost interest a bit after that. So this is album number 11, and that's just for Soulfly. It has to be said that Max Cavalera is truly one of the most prolific artists in the genre of metal. Obviously Sepultura, Nail Bomb of course, industrial metal, Cavalera Conspiracy, and I also enjoyed the very recent collaboration of Killer Be Killed. Name more things. The reason I bring up all these various projects is because a lot of them show up on here. Now this was produced by Josh Wilbur, who has also produced Lamb of God, and he was a huge fan of Chaos AD, Roots and the debut Soulfly album. So you get a culmination of kind of all of that type of thing on this album. You get the thrashier elements, you get some straight out hardcore punk, we get the groove laden, more Soulfly-esque material, but not as in abundance as you might think. There's even outright death and black metal riffs on this album. It really is quite varied. There's riffs all over the place. I do apologise for my out of breathedness. I feel fucked. I think it's time to get into the song. So first up is the title track itself, Ritual. This one starts out as you might expect a Soulfly album to, much more of the tribal percussion. There's a Ratamahata vibe to a lot of this as well. No doubt Josh's influence. I know it was, I saw an interview where he was talking about it. Tribal percussion, groove-laden riffs, refugee, silence, agony, crawling back to me, my inner hell set free, sacrifice, acceptance at a price, solidarity, fuck you, I am integrity. Classic Max lyrics. Integrity is of course something that's very important to him and crops up in his lyrics again and again. Things move into more of a thrashier direction. As I stated earlier, the chorus has a very Ratamahata type vibe to it. There's multi-stacked vocals of something like that. The back half of the song moves into a much sludgier direction, and this is quite a common theme on the album as well. There's a lot of tempo changes, and as I said, riffs per song is pretty impressive on this album. On this one as well, we also get a Tom G. Warrior style ooh, which makes any metal album better. Cool start to an album and much more varied than a lot of previous Soulfly material. I approve. Next song we get is Dead Behind the Eyes, and this features Randy Blythe from Lamb of God. Max was interested in getting him to collaborate on the album. Randy actually asked Max if he could just hear all the material, and he picked out the one that he felt was best for him. This song does actually make sense. There's a lot of riffs on this that do have a Lamb of God type of vibe. Whether that was the way they were written prior to Randy coming on board, or whether they tailored that to his style, I don't know, but I can see why he chose this song. Some great riffs on here, great solo from Mark Rizzo, fantastic lead player. He really does know how to shred that, Mr. Rizzo. Much like the opening song, the back half goes into a sludgier section, which is one of the things I've always enjoyed about a lot of Max's playing actually. He can do the thrash stuff like no one else. He really can do that fantastically, but I love the slower material that he does. There's a lot of references to Hellraiser in this song. I don't know if it's talking about those films or if it's meant on a metaphorical level, I'm not sure. Cenobites, I know your kind, dead behind the eyes. Self-inflicted, Cenobites, dead behind the eyes. Next up we have The Summoning. I really enjoyed this one. An almost black metal style riff kicks things off on this one before going into more of a mid-paced, down-picked chugger. And there's some pretty fucking righteous lyrics on this one. Will you take my soul? Will you take my world? I fear no one. The strength I summon. Towards the back half of this song we get a Beneath the Remains era Sepultura style riff. We also get this sort of triplet riff. Josh's influence is all over this album, just showcasing everything that has made Max's playing and songwriting so damn appealing over the years. Next up we have Evil Empowered. Get a groovier riff throughout the majority of this one, and I particularly enjoyed Zion Cavalera's drumming, Max's son of course, whose heartbeat can be heard in utero at the beginning of the Chaos AD album. So it's kind of nice to hear him now actually contributing to music as well. It's kind of, I didn't actually think of that till then. We get another mix of faster, thrashier material and slower, sludgier material, and I'm particularly enjoying this mix of thrashy and sludgy material. Bow down to the greatest corrupter, the second coming of the Antichrist on earth. Live with a curse, kill in the name of God, the devil's one. Next up we have Under Rapture, and this one features Ross Dolan of Immolation. There's a full-on thrash riff that sets this one up, and it's very reminiscent of Propaganda from Chaos AD, of course, and for the first half of the song remains a fairly typical but enjoyable Cavalera composition until around 2 minutes in, when we get a sudden bass solo, presumably from Ross Dolan, which then goes into these frenetic death metal vocals from Ross Dolan over this real hardcore type riff, which then transitions into more sort of death metal tremolo picking. Fuck's sake, I've lost the lyrics. There was also a riff on this one towards the tail end of the song that was very reminiscent to the bridge section in Pantera's Strength Beyond Strength. I enjoyed this one a lot. People abound. Next up, Demonized. Mark Rizzo comes to the forefront here with a flamenco style guitar part that brought to mind some of the stuff that was on Beneath the Remains, before distortion starts to swell in and we get an almighty pick slide. What could be more metal than a pick slide? That brings us into a groove-laden riff, followed by more black metal style tremolo picking. It's all over the place. Are you judging my morals and my lack of faith? Intolerance of nothing that is sacrosanct. Disgracing the arrogant, I'll craft my throne from pestilence. Malevolent, you're nothing. You're all dead to me. Dead. Bloody hell. This is another one that I enjoyed a lot, and I'm just kind of blown away by the sheer amount of riffs on display on this album. Nothing really stays the same for too long. If you don't like one particular riff, then there's, you know, you're gonna find another one coming along in a second, so fucking great. Next up we have Blood on the Street. This one starts out with what sounds like a flute before these very reverb drenched drums kick in, and it's I have to say it's very reminiscent of Pantera's 13 Steps to Nowhere, before going into a mid-paced riff that I could quite easily have seen or heard on the Chaos AD album. We get some more hardcore riffage, more black metal style tremolo picking, and there's even a couple of Lamb of God style sort of harmonised guitar parts towards the end of the song, while the outro of the song returns to some of the more tribal elements. Chain link and concrete, blood on the streets. Different eyes and hair, the scales of justice don't care. Next up we have Bite the Bullet. Don't bite bullets. Peace sells, but who's buying them, alright guys? Starts out with a harmonised guitar part by Rizzo, I presume, before the groove kicks in. This song, vibe-wise, had kind of had a Territory vibe to it, with a hint of straight hate. Mike Leon gets to take centre stage for a section of this, as the bass becomes the sole instrument at one point, and we get some discordant chords. Very reminiscent of fucking Sepultura era, Chaos AD era. I am part of the war. I have been here before. Grease the tyres, spill the blood. Innocence dragged through the mud. Anger, fear, rising contradiction. Suffer, pester, carry this affliction. Decent tune. Penultimate track is Feedback. The intro to this song really kind of took me off guard. It's got this almost happy punk hard rock vibe to it. It's almost like a meeting of Guns N' Roses and Discharge. Very kind of very like what? You know, what? I was literally like what? I was actually more like, oh. There's a great down-pick riff that kicks in as well around the halfway mark that kind of reminded me a bit of Inner Self. Vanishing point of the blacktop. Shithole venue smells like rot. 1,000 nights I left behind. Another tribe, another time. Yes, a song about the rigours of the touring life, I'm guessing. A fun song that I really enjoyed a lot, as you often do with a fun song. And the final track on the album, as is tradition, not necessarily the final track, but the self-titled instrumental. In this case being Soulfly XI. This was an acoustic guitar-driven piece that was very reminiscent of Sabbath's Planet Caravan. It's got that same sort of meditative vibe, as have all the Soulfly instrumentals. There was a saxophone in the mix as well that worked perfectly. I've always loved Max's use of experimentation. I like the fact that he's not afraid to do what the fuck he wants to do. Some truly beautiful acoustic playing on this piece, and yeah, a very meditative, relaxing way to finish a pretty goddamn solid album. In terms of a score, I'd give this an 8 out of 10. I think it's a really solid album. It very much showcases everything that we love about Max Cavalera. You've got the groove-laden Soulfly material, you've got the thrashier early Sepultura stuff, the black and death metal, again I guess from their early years. Plus you've got that more hardcore infused mid-paced stuff that we get from the Chaos AD era and Nail Bomb, of course. Just some great riffs on here. The sheer amount of riffs on this album is absolutely incredible. Max is without a shadow of a doubt one of the true riff lords. He's kind of got that Hetfield vibe about him. Strikes me as one of those people who just picks up a guitar and there's a riff. So yeah, if you've been put off by previous Soulfly material, the more sort of groove laden tribal stuff, this might well be the album for you. This is it's a great album. What have we next? Well, a couple of days time there'll be a bit of a there'll be a bit of a channel update, which will update you on the channel. Something else I want to try out and bring in and actually do it this time, unlike the previous times when I've said I'm going to do something. Don't fucking do it. Don't judge yourself, Ben. Yes, until the next time, nobody's watched till this part anyway, so who gives a fuck?